It is 10:32 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I am late today on this day, the 26th of June, 2025. This is episode 11D23 of Bitcoin, and it looks like we're going to be able to qualify for mortgages with our Bitcoin. Really? Really? Is that what we're really going to be able to do? There's a huge catch to that. And I'm going to tell you all about that news and the rest of the news that you can use, including Brussels has a softer tone on stablecoins. Ripple got bitch slapped. And then Tether is going to be back in the news, this time in a more sports ball-y kind of way. And then, Ledger Nano S. I hated that thing. I hated it. And now apparently Ledger hates it too. Trump sold a bunch of shit coins, and GameStop is in the news, Metaplanet is in the news, and Castle is in the news. Let's get back to this Federal Housing Authority stuff. You might have, if you tuned into, it was either, I think it was yesterday's show, I talked about Pulte, and he's the director of the Federal Housing, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guys, you know, the guys that hold all the mortgages now. It didn't used to be that way, but ever since the collapse of 2008, you can be pretty much sure that if you get a loan for like a, home loan or mortgage through Bank of America, it's going to immediately be sold to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and there's not a damn thing that you can do about it. But it appears that we've had a change in what allows you to qualify for a mortgage beyond cash in the bank. Now, we talked about this on this show. It used to be where if you wanted to put up your Bitcoin as collateral on a home loan, you would have to sell it into cash, and then you'd have to take that cash, put it into your whatever bank account you're going to say, hey, this is my bank account, take a look at it and see if I've got enough money for you to be satisfied to give me a loan. But you'd have to keep it there for somewhere between 30 and 90 days for it to actually count, depending on who is approving your mortgage application. I was talking about that just a couple of weeks ago. And my suggestion is that this was important when it came to the ETFs, like the BlackRock Spot Bitcoin ETF, and the fact that they want to have in-kind redemptions, so that way you would be able to have Bitcoin on your own that you held in your own private custody. You'd be able to transfer it over to BlackRock and in the in-kind redemption, so that you would be able to say, look, here's my account number with BlackRock, and this is how much Bitcoin I put in, and it's here, and you can see it, and blah, 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 and everything's going to be okay. Right now I can use it as collateral on my loan. But until at such time that happens, we weren't able to do that because we don't have in-kind redemptions on any of these ETFs. So here comes Mr. Pulte, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, with the Federal Housing Authority. And he had mentioned, and I was talking about this, it was either yesterday or the day before, he had mentioned that he might be looking at cryptocurrency for collateralized loan approvals. And all of a sudden, here comes Michael Saylor saying, hey, we've got this, this, and this. Maybe you should take a look at these because we've already done all this, and here's the structure. And if you want to talk to me a little bit later, feel free to give me a ring-a-ding-a-ding-a. And Pulte writes him back and says, we're definitely going to look into it. And then yesterday, so I guess it was the day before yesterday, because yesterday we get news that the Federal Housing Authority has approved the ability for us to use our Bitcoin as to help us get our mortgages approved for a home loan. But there's going to be a huge catch. So we'll start out with Oscar Perez writing this one for Bitcoin Magazine. FHFA orders to recognize Bitcoin and, God forbid, other cryptos in mortgage assessments. Today, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, the FHFA, directed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to include Bitcoin and shitcoins in their mortgage risk assessments. This historic policy shift signals that the United States government growing recognition of digital assets in mainstream financial systems, quote, after significant study and in keeping with President Trump's vision to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, today I ordered the great Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare their businesses to count cryptocurrency as an asset for a mortgage, stated the director of the United States Federal Housing FHFA, William J. Pulte, on Twitter, or X or whatever. Until now, Bitcoin has not typically been considered in the mortgage risk assessment process unless it was first converted into US dollars. Under the new directive, however, the FHFA acknowledges that digital assets, when properly documented, this is key, can serve as valid indicators of a borrower's financial reserves. The directive instructs Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to develop proposals for incorporating Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies into single-family loan assessments without requiring conversion to cash. Only Bitcoin and other crypto assets stored on U.S. regulated centralized exchanges and compliant with applicable laws will be considered, and there it is, right there. Let's move on and we'll come back to it. The FHFA believes this move will help the enterprise, or rather help enterprises, assess a broader range of borrower assets and better support sustainable home ownership for creditworthy borrowers, especially those with wealth held outside traditional banking systems. Additionally, the enterprises are required to factor in the volatility of Bitcoin and other crypto markets by including appropriate risk mitigants in their assessments. These may include internal adjustments for price fluctuations and limits on the proportion of reserves held in Bitcoin and other crypto. Quote, today is a historic day in the cryptocurrency industry and the mortgage industry whereby Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are now positioned to involve cryptocurrencies in mortgages, said on X, Mr. Pulte. Quote, thank you, President Trump, for making the USA the crypto capital of the world. So I had no idea that Mr. Pulte was that far into crypto, and I put that into quotes, but I guess he is. Let's get back to the crux of the biscuit, right? Only Bitcoin and other crypto assets stored on U.S. regulated centralized exchanges and compliant with applicable laws will be considered. Boom. Right there. For your Bitcoin to count. If you have like a cold card like I do, and you basically used it to store in very, very, very cold fashion your Bitcoin, that's not going to be counted. They won't even let you sign a message from the wallet saying, hey, this is my shit. You're right. Like what I was thinking is like before I heard about this centralized exchange business, what I was thinking is that what they would do is generate you a particular, like, I don't know, 16-digit alphanumeric number that's just randomly generated. They keep a copy and you keep a copy. And then they give you an address to sign a message to, and it has to be exactly that alphanumeric combination with nothing else, like no spaces, no nothing. Then that wallet is looked at, and basically it says, yes, this transaction, this signature transaction matches what we sent to them, so it's like a 2FA situation. Even then, I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Something's up. And then all of a sudden, we get the news that in the structure of this entire acceptance of Bitcoin being used for mortgage leverage, we get the fact that you have to put it on Coinbase or some other United States regulated centralized exchange, which means no longer will the Bitcoin be in your custody, right? Of course, I'm of the mind of screw you. No, that's never going to happen. But let's back up and take a long breath about this. How far did you think they were going to step up to the plate when they first did this? Right? This is a first step. This isn't the end of the road for this. I actually believe that as we move forward, that there will be a chance that what I had just described to you will actually occur. And what did I just describe? Well, the ability for you to sign a message from your wallet that basically says, hey, I got the message that you wanted me to send. The messages match. So therefore, I clearly have the Bitcoin that is in this wallet address, which you can now see because I sent you a message transaction from that wallet address, even if I didn't send you any Bitcoin with it, right? That's one of the ways that we can leverage this technology to prove that we have what we say we have without ever losing custody of the thing, because only I would be able to sign a message from that wallet address. Even though I'm not sending them any Bitcoin with it, I will have to pay a transaction fee for it. It will contain the message probably in the op return, and they will at that point have my wallet address because they will see the sender address. So then they can look and say, yeah, he really does have X amount of Bitcoin, right? So I think that's still in play, but it's not going to be in play immediately, right? This is a first step to being able to do that. Secondly, there's a difference between qualifying for a loan and actually getting the loan. So it will not surprise me if something like the following happens down in the future, when we still want to be able to control our coins. Think of Unchained out there in Austin, Texas, which has incredible custody solutions for Bitcoiners. They have multi-sig, which means that in the future, I could see that I can keep complete self-custody on a single sig, or even a complete self-custody on multi-sig. Send them a message and they say, yes, you have the Bitcoin that you actually say you have. And therefore, we're going to assess the potential as to whether or not we would give you a mortgage. You would be pre-qualified to take a mortgage at that stage. If you decide to take the mortgage and buy the house, at that point, then they will say, we will not release the mortgage until you do this. You need to find a custodian like Unchained that we can both be parties to, and they will be the third party. And under arbitrage situations, you have to release your Bitcoin to us under these conditions, like, I don't know, default on the loan, whatever it is. Or vice versa, it comes back to me if I pay the loan off under an arbitration. That's what I'm looking for. Arbitration between the three parties. And then Unchained, as the arbitrator, say, yeah, he actually did pay off the loan. Therefore, we're going to release the Bitcoin back into his custody. I actually think that will happen, but it's not going to happen today. Let's move on to Brussels, where they've taken a softer tone on foreign stable coins, and it sparked industry optimism. Oh my God, Helen Parks Cointelegraph says that the European Union's main executive body, we're not talking about the ECB, we're not talking about the European Central Bank, the European Union's main executive body has taken a softer approach towards stablecoin, contrasting with that of the European Central Bank and sparking industry optimism. So now we're at odds. It's like the executive branch of the EU is kind of at odds with the European Central Bank. That would be like the executive branch or Trump administration being at odds with the Federal Reserve. In response to ECB concerns on potential bank-run risks stemming from stablecoin multi-issuance in Europe and third countries, the European Commission said such risks are highly unlikely. A spokesperson for the Commission told Cointelegraph, quote, even in the highly unlikely event of a run on a jointly issued token, redemptions by foreign holders would primarily occur in jurisdictions like the United States, where most tokens circulate and the bulk of reserves are held. Wow, that's a hell of an admission. They're already saying that the United States is the central repository not only for the world's global reserve currency, but now for pretty much the bulk of stablecoins. That's going to be important in years to come, I guarantee it. The Commission's stance on stablecoin multi-issuance in the EU and elsewhere has significant implications for the industry, marking a major win, according to local industry observers. Brussels Softening approach to foreign stablecoin contrast with previous warnings from the ECB, which published a non-paper. They actually say that. Maybe they meant white. I don't know. But let's go with it. Published a non-paper in April on the EU and third country stablecoin multi-issuance. Quote, an EU and third country stablecoin multi-issuance scheme would significantly weaken the EU's prudential regime for electronic money token issuers by increasing the likelihood of a run as EU issuers may not have enough reserve assets under the supervision of EU authorities to fulfill redemption requests by both EU and non-EU token holders, wrote the European Central Bank. They also warned that joint stablecoin issuance with third countries could undermine financial stability by weakening safeguards for EU consumers by bypassing critical protections of the markets in crypto asset regulation, otherwise known as MiCA. It may also enable foreign issuers to falsely claim EU-level compliance, shift regulatory accountability to EU authorities without proper oversight, and open the door for non-EU firms to access the single market without meeting European Union standards, the non-paper argued. If you don't know what a non-paper is either, then we're in the same boat. We're rowing the same boat with a pair of matching oars, buddy. I've never heard of a non-paper before. I'll have to look into that. After addressing the ECB's warnings, the Commission in June issued an in-depth analysis of the implications of the joint stablecoin issuance with third countries in a paper titled Stablecoins and Digital Euro, Friends or Foes of European Monetary Policy. Quote, we find that there are significant institutional and regulatory barriers to wider adoption of foreign stablecoins in the European area, the Euro area. The Commission said in its study, adding that MiCA regulation has discouraged large foreign issuers from registering in Europe. Yeah, no shit, dude. Nobody wants to deal with your ass. The Commission specifically referred to Tether, the issuer of USDT, the world's largest stablecoin by market capitalization, which refused to comply with MiCA due to reasons including the requirement to keep at least 60% of their reserves in European banks. I wouldn't either. If I was Tether, I would be like, nope, that's never going to happen, bro. That's never going to happen. If you want Tether to be used in the European Union, you're going to do it under our requirements. We're not going to bow to your requirements. Hopefully they keep that stance. Anyway, according to the Commission, the risks of the joint stablecoin issuance with third countries are manageable with existing policies, as issuers can be required to have a rebalancing mechanism to ensure that reserves in the EU match token holdings in the EU. According to Juan Ignacio Ibanez, General Secretary of the MiCA Crypto Alliance, the Commission's approach to joint stablecoin issuance with other countries means that the authority will not force issuers like Circle to functionally distinguish between USDC US and USDC EU. Quote, these players are global entities issuing a stablecoin both in the EU and abroad, Ibanez told Cointelegraph, adding that the Commission is effectively advocating for the fungibility or the fungible treatment of local and internationally issued coins, and for one entity to uphold the redeemability of coins issued by the other entity. Quote, this is very positive news and even a relief, Ibanez said. A major component of the stablecoin's value lies in its cross-border usability, which stablecoins inherit from blockchain technology itself. Enforcing jurisdictional silos would undermine the fundamental feature and degrade the user experience with the EU. Sorry, I chuckled, but every time I read blockchain, I automatically chuckle. Yeah, it's good news for stablecoins and issuers that want to go into Europe, but I that whole issue of keeping 60% of your backing structure behind your stablecoin in European banks, 60%. And if it's fungible from US to EU, well, see, this is what I'm getting at here is that you got Tether. It's pegged to the dollar. There's so many, however many Tether there are issued are out there. They want fungibility in the EU of the Tether token. But they want Tether to put well more than 50% of the backing of that token into their banks. What does that mean? That there would only be 40% left for the rest of the world in case something bad happened? No, Europe. You're going to burn. You're already on fire. It's already a dumpster. Nobody trusts your financial system at this point. It's too far gone, and it ain't like the United States is that much better, but guess what? Global reserve currency. So until at such time that shit doesn't occur, and we may see that in our lifetimes, go pound sand. And Tether's going to continue to tell them to go pound sand, or at least I hope so. Now, on to some actual other criminals other than the EU. Ripple is stuck with a $125 million penalty as judge denies XRP settlement with the SEC. Ha ha. This is out of Decrypt, by the way, written by Andrei Bagansky. U.S. District Judge Annalisa Torres denied a proposal from Ripple Labs and the SEC on Thursday, refusing to cut a $125 million penalty or toss out an injunction imposed against the XRP-linked firm last year. Her decision comes less than 2 weeks after the SEC and Ripple requested that the court lower a civil penalty over illegal XRP sales to $50 million, which is far less than the $2 billion sought under former chair Gary Gensler, and remove restrictions on Ripple's ability to sell the asset because, that's what they do. And for those of you who don't understand that, Ripple created XRP. They say they didn't, or they say that they're not linked to it, but they are. And we all know they created it. We all know that they're linked to it. And what they do is they print this shit and then they sell it on the open market. And God only knows what they actually do with the money. But basically, they're treating all XRP holders as bag holders. It's not a Ponzi, but it's a scheme. And everybody at Ripple needs, hopefully, to go to the deepest level of hell that there is in Dante's hell and stay there for the rest of eternity. In her 5-page order, Torres cited a compelling case that the SEC built up over 4 years, which alleged that Ripple offered and sold XRP to investors as an unregistered security. Yes, they did. Although Ripple's so-called programmatic sales of XRP weren't in violation of the law, Torres found that in 2023, Ripple's sales to institutions were warranting a substantially reduced fine. Torres found Ripple and the SEC's most recent arguments lacking, saying that while the SEC has the power to change course once an enforcement action is initiated, it and Ripple cannot agree to no longer be bound by the court's final judgment that a party violated, the law. Ripple Chief Legal Officer Stuart Aldertoy, who I also hope goes to hell, said on X that the ball is back in our court. The company may choose to stick with its appeal, but either way, XRP's legal status as not a security remains unchanged, he said. Although the SEC has struck a crypto-friendly tone under U.S. President Trump, with the regulator abandoning several high-profile cases, Torres emphasized that the logic underpinning her decision in the SEC's case against Ripple hasn't changed over the past 6 months. Quote, "None of this has changed, and the parties hardly pretend that it has. Nevertheless, they now claim that it is in the public interest to cut the civil penalty by 60% and vacate the permanent injunction entered less than 1 year ago," end quote. Torres's ruling highlights how Gensler's SEC could have a lasting impact on the crypto industry despite Republican-led efforts to walk back what critics say was regulation by enforcement. The lawsuit was first initiated under the then SEC chair Jay Clayton, a Trump nominee. So Torres is like a dog with a bone on this one, and this is the only time that I really agree with her. Everything about Ripple is a scam, and everything about XRP is a scam. And if you hold XRP, you need to sell it for Bitcoin right now and get out of this mess. And then you can sit back with some sweet, sweet, sweet chocolate. Or in this case, he's got, well, let's see, what do we got here? We got banana chocolate chip hollow bars, which are very sweet and they're very, very good. And from Oshi. It's my buddy Oshi. Oshigood.us, not .com, .us. Oshigood.us. Go get banana chocolate chip hollow bars. You can get them in a 5-pack, 27,000 Satoshis. We'll get you 5 of these 2.4 ounce bars that include dates, pecan butter, dark chocolate chips, banana powder, peanut flour, chocolate powder, vanilla extract, cinnamon, and sea salt. These things are freaking delicious. And when you shove them into a backpack and you're on a hike and all of a sudden you get hungry, it may not sound like much, but 2.4 ounces of a single bar of this stuff will get you up over the hump, I promise. And he sells it all for Bitcoin. Please, please, please use the code BitcoinAnd. Right now, we haven't figured on a discount, so don't assume any kind of discount. It lets Oshi know that you heard about his product here at the Circle P on the Bitcoin and podcast. That way he can say, how much do I think that sale was worth to me? In a value for value model, I think it was worth X amount of Satoshis. And he sends that to me because it's commission, right? He doesn't pay me up front for advertising. This is the way the Circle P works. It's where I bring plebs just like you with goods and services to plebs just like you who might want to purchase said goods and services. But you got to do it in Bitcoin, because if you're not selling your shit in Bitcoin, you ain't in the Circle P. Go to oshigood.us, oshigood.us. Tell them Bitcoin and sent you with the code Bitcoin. And Tether is back in the news, except this time in a very sporty kind of way, because Tether seeks more active role after Juventus buying over 10% of a soccer club, or of the soccer club. My God almighty, now they're getting into sports. As well as being issuer of the world's largest stablecoin, Tether also owns more than 10% of Juventus Football Club, or FC, and is now looking to play a more active role in the running of the Italian soccer powerhouse. That really pissed off all the Europeans when we called it soccer, didn't it? Tether asked to participate in the club's recent capital increase and be granted a board seat in May, according to an emailed statement from the stablecoin issuer. Quote, while these requests were not taken up at the time, a new meeting date has since been proposed, and we are currently coordinating with the stakeholders to confirm availability or suggest an alternative if needed, said Tether. Juventus dominated Italian football throughout the 2010s, winning 9 consecutive Serie A titles between 2011 and 2020, but has been in a rebuilding mode since finishing between 3rd and 7th in each of the 5 seasons since their last championship. Tether increased its stake in I Bianconeri, I can't pronounce it, the White and Blacks is what it says, to over 10% in April, having bought 8.2% of the club back in February, and it is now Juventus's second largest shareholder. Exor, the holding company of the Agnelli family, owns 65%. Quote, our intention is to be a supportive and engaged partner in the club's future. We recognize that significant investment will be needed to build a competitive squad, and we are prepared to contribute meaningfully to that effort. So I guess they're taking a page directly out of Peter McCormick's book. They're getting into football. I mean, what else are you going to do? You got $13 billion that 200 people made in a single year, which is, I don't think there's enough talk about how nobody else has ever done that. Ever. 200 people work at Tether. Not 2,000, not 20,000, not 200,000. They made $13 billion, 200 people in a year. Last year, $13 billion. That was their net. That wasn't their total revenue. No, that was their net. 200 people. $13 billion. You do the freaking math. Do the freaking math. What else are you going to do with all that cash? You're going to buy parts of football clubs, and why not? I mean, those are some hell of those. That's just a hell of a set of numbers. Meanwhile, we have our own to run. Futures and commodities. West Texas Intermediate is up 0.75 of a point to 65.65. Brent North Sea oil is up 0.75 of a point to 68.18 a barrel. Natural gas is down 3 points to $3.30 per thousand cubic feet. Gasoline is up 1 1/3, back up to $2.11 a gallon. Shiny metal rocks doing well. Gold up 0.18% to $33.49 and a dime. Silver is up 1 1/4. Platinum is up 7% today, and copper is up 3 1/4%. Palladium killing everybody. Palladium is up 8% on the day. Ag looking terrible, mostly in the red. Biggest winner is chocolate, 4% to the upside. Biggest loser is sugar, 2 1/3 to the downside. Meanwhile, live cattle, crab walking sideways slightly in the green. Lean hogs down a point. Feeder cattle up 1/4 of a point. Dow is up almost a full point. Wow, it's gained 354 today. And the S&P is up 2/3 of a point. NASDAQ is up 3/4 of a point. And the S&P mini is up almost a full point. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is chilling out at $107,340. That is a $2.13 trillion market cap, and we can purchase 32.1 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,883,685.21 of. And average fees per block are slightly elevated, 0.05 BTC, taken in fees on a per block basis. Looks to be about 18 blocks carrying 17,000 unconfirmed transactions, waiting to clear at high priority rates of 3 Satoshis per VByte. Low priority is going to get you in at 3 Satoshis per VByte. Hash rate recovering slightly, 824.6 exahashes per second. We have an estimated difficulty adjustment coming up in 2 days that is set to be a 7% downward adjustment. Haven't seen one of those in quite a while, or at least not all, not 7%, maybe a couple of percent. Anyway, Justin. Oh, by the way, this is from RIP NYC, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin, and I got Justin with 5,000 sats says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. Polly says, with 2,100 says, great rip. Thank you, sir. No, thank you. Chill now with 1122. Ooh, it's a show number boost. System cage running. Hermitages, the answer, a metadata bookie. The odds are never in your favor. Stablecoin neutral, wetwork interface. Bringing centralized thought and monetary control features leaves me screaming inside. Hands cannot break it. Trapped forever. They terrified of losing control. Grasp ever tighter. Submit plus obey return error. System cage collapsed. Man, these have got to be AI generated. Jub with 1,000 says, stay cool. I will. Progressively worse with 555 says, thank you. No, thank you. And that is it. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. We're going to start out with the end of support for the Ledger Nano S. Brick Be Gone apparently has caused some controversy. Atlas 21 probably won't read much of this one because it's just, it's Ledger. It's a piece of garbage. I hate this thing. This is out of Atlas 21. Like I said, crypto users have been voicing their discontent after discovering that Ledger announced the end of support for the Ledger Nano S last May. In the spring update released on May the 30th, the French company officially communicated the transition away from the Ledger Nano S, specifying that no new applications, feature requests, or updates to existing apps would be accepted from that point onward. The company also recommended that users switch to a different Ledger device and ensure that they have their 24-word recovery phrase to maintain access. This is not conducive to the man in the coma. It's not. This is bullshit. This is why nobody should use this company for anything ever, under any circumstances. Because at one point or another, they're just going to one day give you throw you an email that says, "Oh, that $100 that you spent 2 years ago on your ledger, yeah, now you're gonna have to buy another one of our devices, and that one's going to cost $250, or it's not going to cost $100." I used to be able to pick up Ledger Nano S's for $85. Then they were like $100. By the time they got to like 200 or 110 or whatever, I had already stopped buying them. I had 3 of them. 2 of them bricked on me on an update. The third one I used simply to recover all my shit so that I could send it to an actual hardware wallet that is not going to be deprecated over time, and that would be the cold card. I'm just going to be able to use my cold card. And honestly, yeah, I get it. As long as you had your 24-word seed phrase, you don't have to buy another ledger. Right? You can, as long as you saved your seed phrase when you were spinning up your wallet on your Ledger Nano S, as long as you did that and you've got it somewhere else, you can use any other wallet. You don't have to get another Ledger device. But the fact that they are just like literally throwing the Ledger Nano S out of the window, and if anything happens to it and you didn't write down your seed phrase, and you're kind of hosed. See, this is what I mean by man in the coma. Let's say I buy a Ledger Nano S, I spin up a wallet, I put 1,000 Bitcoin into it, and then I put it in a safety deposit box somewhere, and I'm off to see my wife and kids, and boom, I get hit by a gravel truck. I don't know why, but I get hit by a gravel truck. And I don't die. Again, I don't know why, because a gravel truck hitting you on the road should actually kill your ass. But let's just say I get into a coma. And 40 years later, I wake up, and guess where that 1,000 Bitcoin is, because I didn't have time to write down my seed phrase, which is bad in and of itself. But then I go, well, screw it. I go to my safety deposit box, and my wife still has it for me. And I get in there, and I get the ledger, and I plug it in, and I do all this stuff, and it just doesn't work. Right? It won't interface with anything. I can't get it to. It just doesn't work. See, this is the kind of shit you gotta put up with when you're working with freaking companies like Ledger. I stopped using them. Don't use Ledger, please, for the love of God. Just don't use them. I don't know. Like, if you don't want a cold card, I don't know. Go try a Trezor. I've never used one. I hear great things, but I'm of the mind that I would rather have something like a cold card who's built by an individual that puts his philosophy of security first, longevity second, because you do want security first, and you want him to think about longevity, and Rodolfo Novak thinks about both of those. That's exactly why I use his product from CoinKite, which is the cold card. Now, Trump, World Liberty, has sold $100 million in WLFI tokens to the UAE-based fund. I guess we'll get the name of that one here in a minute from RT Watson, writing from the block. The United Arab Emirates-based Aqua One, a crypto-focused fund, said on Thursday that it purchased $100 million of World Liberty financial tokens. Jesus. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like Secretary of State Kissinger going over to Saudi Arabia and telling the Saudis, here's the way we're going to work the petrodollar, boys. We're going to buy all the oil that you can pump out of the ground, except you got to buy it for dollars, and we're going to call it the petrodollar. Yes, sir. And literally, that's what happened. That's how we got into the Middle East. We did it in like somewhere in the early 70s. Kissinger was probably setting that shit up ever since he was hanging out with the Kennedy boys. I don't know. But it was Kissinger. He's the one that set up the petrodollar. He's the one that set up the deal that said Saudi Arabia would buy all our debt, we would buy all our oil, and they could only sell their oil in dollars, not only to us, but to the rest of the world. That's the petrodollar in a nutshell. This sounds a lot like that. It just does. The announcement comes a day after Trump-backed DeFi project World Liberty said that it was working to allow for the trading of its WLFI token. World Liberty's deepening ties with the Middle East may draw the ire of critics who have been alarmed by Trump's crypto-related business ventures, and earlier this month, financial disclosures showed that the president has made over $57 million from World Liberty token sales. The disclosure also showed that Trump owns 15.75 billion with a B, WLFI tokens, which means he could exercise voting rights within World Liberty. Currently, the WLFI token grants holders voting rights, and they can propose governance changes, but holders are restricted from transferring the tokens. The project is listed as being inspired by Trump while calling the president its chief crypto advocate. Trump's sons also play key roles there. Quote, "We're excited to work hand in hand with the team at Aqua One," World Liberty co-founder Zach Folkman said of Thursday's announcement. Quote, "Aligning with Aqua One validates our blueprint for global financial innovation as we have a joint mission to bring digital assets to the masses." Oh, it's a fucking profit now, and strengthen our nation's standing as a champion and leader of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Oh my God. If you've ever listened to this show for any length of time, you know how much I hate suit speak. This goes beyond suit speak. This is absolute toilet talk. This is just marketing bullshit, and I hate every syllable of it. Let's move on. This is not the first time that there has been some overlap with a crypto-related investment, the Middle East, and World Liberty. In May, the Abu Dhabi investment firm MGX used World Liberty Financial's USD1 stablecoin to close a $2 billion deal with the crypto exchange Binance. In its statement announcing its purchase of WLFI tokens, Aqua One said its aim to buy the tokens will, quote, "accelerate the creation of a blockchain-powered financial ecosystem centered on blockchain development." Says absolutely nothing. You want to center a financial ecosystem on the development of blockchain? That doesn't make any sense. These people are all bullshitting you. And they're bullshitting each other because they're all full of bullshit. Anyway, according to the organization's website, quote, "Aqua One Foundation is a Web3 native fund based in UAE with a global outlook." Oh yes, global. "It is committed to the long-term prosperity of the crypto ecosystem. Our objective is to deliver stable returns to asset holders and act as a key enabler of liquidity and growth for crypto assets." Again, it's suit speak. It says nothing. It says nothing. It says nothing. It's all bullshit. It's just catchphrases. Yeah, I swear to God, these marketing statements that are now being produced are literally being produced by AI with the instruction, "Dear Mr. ChatGPT, will you please write me a mission statement that is search engine optimized, using search engine optimized words so that it bounces around the internet and gets eyeballs put on it." That, I swear to God, that's how these people are actually building their shit now. And it's just beyond gross. It really, really is. And I'm not saying that it's beyond gross because Trump's involved or it's World Liberty Financial. That's all. I mean, yes, it's still horse hockey, but it's these statements that these people make. "I'm going to build a financial ecosystem on blockchain development." They actually said that. I guarantee you 95% of the people that see that statement go, "Oh, wow, that sounds like it's very innovative. Maybe we should invest." No, don't, because they have no idea what they're talking about. These people, on the other hand, may know what they're talking about. GameStop is raising $450 million from convertible senior notes to make investments. Okay, yay. Bitcoin Magazine, Oscar Perez. I know there's some Bitcoin stuff in here. That's why I'm bringing it to you. Today, GameStop Corporation filed a Form 8K with the SEC following the full exercise of a $450 million green shoe option on its recent private offering of convertible senior notes, which could see the company potentially use to purchase more Bitcoin. The move brings the total value of GameStop's 0% convertible senior notes due 2032 to 2.7 billion with a B dollars. Holy crap. The company added Bitcoin to its investment policy earlier this year, identifying it as a treasury reserve asset. Quote, in connection with the green shoe exercise, the company received gross proceeds of $450 million and net proceeds after deducting the initial purchaser's discount, but before deducting estimated fees and expenses of approximately $446.6 million. So wow, they got off pretty clean. They only paid $3.4 million in fees on that whole deal. That's actually pretty good. Quote, the company intends to use the net proceeds from the green shoe exercise for general corporate purposes, including, but not limited to, making investments in a manner consistent with the company's investment policy and potential acquisitions, end quote. The additional $450 million in notes follows a previously announced $2.25 billion offering that closed on June the 17th. The strong demand from institutional investors prompted GameStop to exercise the green shoe option in full June the 23rd, with the new notes issued the very following day. The notes that mature on June 15th, 2032 are convertible into Class A shares at $28.91 each, a 32.5% premium over the June 12th average. Full conversion should result in up to 20.3 million new shares, expanding GameStop's equity base. And by the way, diluting their existing shareholders. I'm just saying. So GameStop is collecting more money. They're using the Sailor playbook, but they're actually not going all in on Bitcoin as they're doing it. They are purchasing some, but I think GameStop is eyeing this as like, shit, here's what we do, man. We just sell debt. We'll call them, we'll do the convertible note thing, and they can convert that shit into into shares. And we'll take the proceeds and we'll buy whatever the hell we want to buy with it. Not just Bitcoin. Because that's pretty much all Strategy actually buys when they do this. They simply buy Bitcoin. From that standpoint, Sailor actually is more of a Bitcoin maximalist than the dude from GameStop. But let's talk about Metaplanet. They've acquired 4 more Bitcoin. No, literally 1,234 more Bitcoin. Their total holdings have reached 100. God, I'm having problems. 12,345 BTC. So they acquired 4 more Bitcoin and added it to get a total of 5 Bitcoin. There is some serious numerology going over there at Metaplanet, I swear. Metaplanet Incorporated, widely recognized as Japan's leading Bitcoin treasury company, has announced today the acquisition of an additional 4 Bitcoin, bringing its total holdings to 5 Bitcoin. The purchase was valued at 19.27 billion yen at an average price of 15.6 million yen per coin. The acquisition is part of the company's newly launched 555 million plan, and I told you about that over the last couple of shows. So let's move on to Castle, who has raised $1 million to bring automated Bitcoin treasury to small and medium-sized businesses. Listen to it again. This is different. Castle, the company, has raised $1 million to bring automated Bitcoin treasury to small and medium-sized businesses. Castle, a Bitcoin treasury platform for small and medium-sized businesses, announced it has raised $1 million in an oversubscribed pre-seed funding round to expand Bitcoin access for businesses, per a press release sent to Bitcoin Magazine. The round was led by Boost VC with backing from Winklevoss Capital, Park Rangers Capital, Epoch VC, and other angel investors. Quote, most savings products used by small and medium businesses, despite being framed as high yield, actually lose money after you account for inflation. Business owners are waking up to this and they deserve better, stated the CEO of Castle, Stephen Cole. Quote, Bitcoin, with its strictly limited supply, has been the best performing asset of the past decade, and we're excited to bring it to companies across America. The funding will be used to accelerate Castle's rollout of its automated Bitcoin treasury solution, which integrates with tools like QuickBooks, PayPal, Square, and Stripe to help SMBs, small and medium businesses, protect their wealth from inflation by auto-magically converting portions of revenue into Bitcoin. Quote, by integrating with tools like QuickBooks, PayPal, Square, and Stripe, our platform gives businesses intelligent Bitcoin exposure aligned with their operational requirements, said CTO João Alameda. Quote, Castle is built to be invisible so owners can focus on what they do best and know their Bitcoin treasury will look the way that they want it to, end quote. Castle also offers strategy options ranging from conservative to aggressive, allowing businesses to align their Bitcoin allocations with their risk tolerance. Current customers include companies across sectors such as restaurants, fitness, accounting, e-commerce, software as a service, real estate, and fine art. Quote, we see Bitcoin as the world's most powerful savings technology, and Castle is making it easy and accessible for small and medium businesses, said the managing partner of Boost VC, Brayton Williams. Quote, the founders are veteran Bitcoiners and tech leaders, combining a rare sense of mission and execution ability, and Boost VC is very excited to support them. Oh, I'm glad that you're very excited to support these people. Quote, Bitcoin is the ultimate store of value, said the founders of Winklevoss Capital, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, also known as the Winklevi. Quote, unlike fiat, it protects the value of your life's work, blah, 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 blah. So the real meat and potatoes of this is that Castle did not raise $1 million to buy Bitcoin to put it on their treasury. Their service that they get a revenue for, which is important, is to teach people and provide them services and or software options for them to construct and continue building their own Bitcoin treasury strategy. See, that's why this one's important. And if I think I remember it being, God, what's that dude's name? Nick something, turned into somewhat of a pariah in the eyes of Bitcoin maximalists because he started going after Bitcoin maximalists. I can't remember his last name, but I think Castle is his gig, so he may still be in that. It doesn't really matter because now we have people who are saying, okay, well, all these huge companies are buying Bitcoin. All these huge companies have a Bitcoin treasury. Well, what about, I don't know, Taco Time, the little tiny, Taco Villa wannabe that's up here in my neck of the woods at the inland Northwest, right? Which is not a very good place, but it is definitely mom and pop. They've got like maybe 5 restaurants or something like that, right? That's who this is for. How do you handle a Bitcoin treasury strategy? How do you explain it on your IRS forms? How do you explain it to your banker? How do you borrow against it? So this is good. This is actually good. It really is, because now we're talking about Bitcoin treasury strategies, Bitcoin treasury companies, and the ability to generate revenue in that particular space. Because I'm getting tired of the people that they just buy Bitcoin and all of a sudden they can just show their shareholders, see, per share, you actually own more Bitcoin now than you did before, even though you don't actually custody it. We do, but you're entitled to the value, and that's why your share price is so high. That's, for me, that's not real actual value. Real actual value is, do you have a good or a service that you could sell? Like, for instance, I can't sell anything out of the Circle P from any of the Bitcoin treasury companies because none of them have a product. None of them actually have a service. If I were to go to Michael Saylor and say, hey, I want to sell your shit in the Circle P, not only would he laugh at me, he would then say, but I don't have anything to sell. We don't even make software anymore. We're just a Bitcoin treasury company. Okay, well then what's your revenue come from? We sell debt. Okay, what do you do with that debt? We buy Bitcoin. Well, what does that do? Well, it allows us to get more share price so that we can go back to the market and say, see, it works. So we can sell more debt and we can buy more Bitcoin, and the cycle repeats, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. There's no product. It does not exist. That's why it's not that I hate Bitcoin treasury companies, but I am getting my fill of this. So, which is why I was really glad to read this story about Castle, who's a company that's in the space, but it's like, screw you guys. What about people that actually have goods and services for sale that want to start capitalizing on saving in Bitcoin? How about we service them and we'll charge them a percentage fee or a flat fee or whatever it is that they do. They get revenue. Why? Because they actually have a service for sale. It's amazing what happens when you actually say, I want to sell something of value to somebody else and I want to take Bitcoin for it, and I want to teach them how to take Bitcoin for their goods and services, for the value that they provide. It's fucking shit is not rocket science. Thank God. Now I can go on about my day, and you can too, now that you've been informed of all the news that's fit to read here at the Bitcoin and podcast, and I will see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.